Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Housing and Economic Development Committee. Today is July 14th, 2020. We will begin with the roll call, posting of the agenda, and the flag salute.
Member Busua?
Here.
Member Flynn?
Present.
Chair Madrigal?
Here.
Chair, the agenda for this meeting was posted in the City Hall kiosk on Tuesday, July 7th.
Okay, thank you very much. Mayor, can you lead us in the pledge, please?
Sure. All rise, please. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda, and it looks like we have no public comments this afternoon. All right, with that being the case, we will move on to item C, the consent agenda, and we will start off with the approval of minutes.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Call for a vote.
Member Busua?
Aye.
Member Flynn?
Aye.
Chair Madrigal?
Aye.
The motion to approve carries 3-0.
Okay. Thank you. Now we are moving on to reports. The first report is by the Community Development Department, Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operations. And this will be presented by, if I'm not mistaken, Jeff Lambert.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Jeff Lambert here, Community Development Director. I'll make the presentation. I believe I will be joined by Betty Huff, who's the Program Manager at Environmental Health at the county. I don't see that she's joined the meeting yet, but hopefully she'll join. But by the time I finish, and she can add her own comments at the end. So this is and there's her information there as well. So what's before the committee today is really a decision on whether the city wants to be supportive of the county either opting in or opting out of this program. And obviously we'll talk in some detail about the pros and cons, but we're really sort of talking about the potential value of this business venture in the city, but also the most likely neighborhood impacts. And so based on that balance, staff came down on the side of recommending that the committee not support the county opting into this program, and we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. But it all began with two bills that were passed by the state legislature, AB 626 and AB 377. The bill allows for small-scale restaurant direct food sales to consumers from home-based facilities. So we have talked about enhanced abilities for people to make goods and sell them elsewhere. That's really already in place. But this really allows homeowners or renters to basically convert portions of their home into a restaurant space. They could be operated from single or multifamily homes, rented or owned. So any unit in the city would be eligible for this program should the county Board of Supervisors decide to opt in. And what that means is the county has the ability to opt in. If they opt in, it automatically applies to all the cities in the county. So we don't have if the county opts in, we don't get an opportunity to opt out. So that's why the county's asking for cities to weigh in and provide some feedback. But go back to the intent of the legislation as written is to authorize the use of home kitchens for small-scale direct food sales by home cooks to consumers, providing appropriate flexibility in food types and appropriate health and sanitation standards. So I think the legislation clearly had a positive intent. We at the local level have concerns about how it might be implemented at the local level. There were several reasons for this legislation to happen. One was to decriminalize and limited local regulation of home kitchen operations. Two, to promote entrepreneurship and economic empowerment for folks to really kind of pull themselves up and create something in their own kitchens that could become valuable to them economically. Allows for home-cooked meals, and maybe that provides more healthy food options to folks in the community. Creates regulations for food handling and safety. As I mentioned, cottage food operators are already allowed to do this, but there have to be non-perishable food and they have to be sold off-site. It does have some limitations on the scale of these operations in the legislation, and I'll go through some of those details in just a second. So here are some of the limited operational standards, and I want to repeat what I said earlier. If the county opted in and these standards were in place, the city couldn't operate with any more standards. We couldn't adopt anything more regulatory in the city of Oxnard compared to what the county does. So it's sort of a one-size-fits-all. But there would be food facility operated, but it would be operated in a private home. It must be prepared, cooked, and served on the same day. Food can only be consumed on site, picked up, or delivered. Direct sales only, so no wholesale delivery. There is a limit on the number of meals per day or per week to make sure that there's some limitations on the conversion really of homes to restaurants, and a limit on the annual sales up to $50,000. Only one employee, must have a permit by the county environmental health department, allow at least one annual inspection, and additional inspections may be allowed based on complaints if they're operating and creating those kind of impacts. But more importantly for us, there are some, it really exempts these businesses from the city having really the ability to control them at the local level through the building code or the zoning code. And I think that's an important distinction that we're trying to make here. City or county shall not impose any restrictions on these in a residential zone. So if the county opts in, we're all in, and these regulations would apply, and we couldn't do anything further to regulate them. Some of the concerns that we've raised in the staff's analysis of this proposal: number one, no local control. It's a one-size-fits-all. Number two, there's some obvious neighborhood impacts: traffic, parking, loading, noise. I think the council knows we already have significant parking impacts in neighborhoods. Converting residential units to eat-in kitchens would exacerbate those kinds of concerns. We didn't put smell here too, but those kind of concerns would also be there. Very limited enforcement and exemptions from building standards. And then we also think there's potential for fire hazards, existing requirements, and safety risks associated with these businesses. And they're also exempt from retail food code for hand washing, the review of the plans, or exhaust food ventilation systems. We've showed some examples of home food situations. These are not intended to show the worst of the worst, but it is intended to show what these could be if they continue to be unregulated any more than the state would allow both the county and the cities to do. I did want to put in some context. There is a report that's been prepared for Ventura County called Enabling Ventura County's Entrepreneurial Ecosystem 2018. And that report really talked about one of the key strategies in the city and the county for economic development is to look for increasing the accessibility of commercial kitchen space. So in some way, these proposals would help address that need and may be able to provide some value to those businesses being able to grow food service in the community. Oh, and so there's a positive potential of this program being operated in Ventura County and throughout the cities in the county. But given all the concerns that we've raised in the staff report and articulated here, the staff ultimately is recommending that the committee recommend to the city council that we prepare a letter for the mayor's signature recommending that the County of Ventura Board of Supervisors opt out of this program and not engage in this program in the County of Ventura. That concludes our staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And I don't know if Betty Huff has joined us yet. Betty, if you're on and you can unmute yourself, I welcome your comments to add to the presentation.
Hello.
There you are. Yeah, if you.
I'm here.
We're here talking remotely to our council committee. If you want to add anything from the county's environmental health perspective, we would welcome that. Betty? Oh, she's gone. Maybe I'll turn it back to the chair and the committee, and if Betty jumps back on, we'll maybe ask her to make a few comments when she gets back connected.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. We have one public speaker on this item, and that would be Lucy Cartagena.
Hi, Lucy, you
Hello?
there? Hi. Live in the Housing and Economic Development Committee meeting. We're on the MICO item, Micro Enterprise Home Kitchen Operations.
Yes.
Okay, so you've got 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Lucy Cartagena, and I really think that this should not be coming up to council until the public can comment on it. I really think you guys should stand down and hold off and wait until you can get public comment on it. I don't understand why everything's being fast-tracked through the city at this moment, and using COVID as an excuse is not going to work. So I think you guys need to let the people that are working and have a say in it. There's people out there, that's how we started the Rey Carnitas. They started the exact same way. You're taking away the culture from the city of Oxnard. And I really think the people should have a say. You should give the people the same amount of say. That's not fair. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on, Betty Huff, anything to say concerning the presentation?
Hello. Sorry, we're having technical difficulties here. So, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah, that was an example of an illegal home food operation, El Rey, and they were able to move into commercial kitchens, and they now, I think they have 3 or 4 spots for that. So that was a illegal home operation. It wouldn't have been allowed even if there was a MICO ordinance, because they weren't in the home kitchen. They were operating out of the garage. But if you have questions for me about implementation of this or anything after Jeff's presentation, I'd be happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, comments, concerns?
Yes. When I was first told, members of the committee, about this state law that counties would have to pass in order to, make it happen, I was really concerned, and I'm primarily concerned not by as much people somehow operating a business out of their home, meaning some of the greatest business founders, some of the greatest businesses in America, and I would imagine outside of this country, are people who have started businesses in their homes. And I think of one as Patagonia. Yvon Chouinard started a mountain gear company, or making business, out of his garage. So he used tools, and I would imagine, maybe even elements that probably weren't particularly safe, to create mountaineering equipment. And it's, today a very large and very successful, I think it's a $500 million, $750 million a year company. And then, of course, there are the people in the Silicon Valley, of which Steve Jobs is one, and there are many others, that started their businesses out of their garages and in their homes. I think that anytime we're dealing with food and health and safety, it's a completely different situation. And also food and, or not just food and health and safety, but we're talking about, largely speaking, creating a retail operation. So on the health and safety side, I have primary concerns. On the other side, I have the concerns about operating a retail business out of a home. And all of us have constituents who already face very difficult situations about trying to park in their neighborhood. It especially affects women and children disproportionately, that they can't park close enough to their home. They don't feel safe walking longer distances. I don't see how that would help this in any way. And the final thing I'd like to say about it is that if there is, I'm all about empowerment. And I think if this were just framed about empowerment, I think it's important that we have a discussion at some point about what we can do to empower our residents more, I think it's highly appropriate to do that. And when I say empower, it could be on a lot of different levels, but just speaking about economics, I'm all willing to have a conversation, but I don't feel comfortable, Mr. Chair, and fellow committee member Basua, of going along with something that I think is highly dubious when it comes to health and safety, number one, and secondly, will have negative impacts on quality of life in neighborhoods. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilwoman Basua?
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I do have a question for Mr. Lambert. Mr. Lambert, do we know, you have an estimated amount of businesses that are currently being run outside of a home, maybe in the garage, illegal kitchens? Do we have a number?
We issue permits, business licenses for home occupancy permits, so I'm sure I can get that number. I don't have it today, but I can get that back to the council members. We don't issue permits for these kinds of home kitchens for on-site dining because that's not allowed in the city yet. But for general home occupations, we do issue permits and licenses, and we can get you that number.
Okay. And do we ever go out to violations in regards to these kind of establishments being run out of a home?
Yes, we get, it's complaint-based mostly, so if a neighbor is concerned, I mean, because even though we allow home-based businesses, there are limitations on no employees, limited deliveries, no signage. Those are already in place for those kinds of home-based businesses. So if a neighbor complains that they think their neighbor is going beyond those limitations, that would prompt us to send code enforcement out to do an inspection to see if they are in fact compliant or not.
Okay. Although I am sure that, these laws were, put into place because in order, like, the mayor said, in order to assist maybe some of the communities, and I can actually see this working in maybe some of the communities up north. I'm not too sure that that's something that Oxnard is going, at least I don't think it's something that the residents of Oxnard are going to enjoy seeing in their neighborhoods. And again, this is just my personal opinion. I mean, and what I'm imagining is my next door neighbor having one of these and the impact that it's going to have on the streets, just like the mayor said. So with that being said, I am definitely supportive of sending this letter to the county and not being in support of this. Thank you.
I would add just to Committee Member Basua, one of the things we could look at too is this might not be the way to go, but there are other ways to help entrepreneurs. There's conversations about trying to find a commercial kitchen location where some food vendor could actually, enhance their craft in a commercial kitchen space that's safe, meets all regulations, and then they could build their business that way. So we might look at alternatives to this if this doesn't proceed in the county of Ventura.
Okay, thank you. Lastly, I'll give my 2 cents, but you already have these type of restaurants running in our local neighborhoods. You have these in Rose Park, you have these in Bartolo Square North, Bartolo Square South, you have these in Lemonwood. You already have businesses going on. You even have some of these down in River Ridge. The River Ridge one obviously is not a sit-down eat spot, but you have places where people go to pick up food. You have local residents who run food businesses out of their own kitchen. As you know, that's something that's going on right now as we speak, especially right now due to COVID. People are trying to make any type of income that they can get. Pre-COVID, you had full-on restaurants on Sunday evenings in Bartolo Square South, Bartolo Square North, Cal Giesler. You had, close to over 75 people in a backyard eating from a variety of different menus. You hear complaints about this And, roughly, not every house has a party every Sunday, because that's simply what the homeowner will say, or the renter. Oh, I had a little get together, but in all reality, it's a full on business. So, I think these type of businesses will continue to run. I think as you're beginning to see, tough financial times, people will try their best to make a buck. So regardless, if this goes through or not, that's not really going to change. No one's really working on a Sunday evening. So it's open season for a lot of these home businesses. So, on one hand, yes, there would be hopefully some sort of regulation that can be passed, but at the same time, if it just becomes like, a full-on business, then it's going to be the same issue as with many things in the city, as long as it's not in my neighborhood. So you're going to hear a lot of people who love it, and then anyone who happens to be the neighbor, they are going to be really upset by this. So it will be a tough situation. Also, even looking at the situation as it is right now, it looks like our new normal is going to be a whole lot different from our regular normal. So a lot of people will be upset if there's a large congregation right next to their house. That I'm done. Is there a motion?
Yes, I would motion to approve sending the letter rejecting or stating to the county that, in other words, the recommended action. So I make a motion to pass the recommended action.
I second that.
Member Basua.
Aye.
Member Flynn.
Aye.
Chair Madrigal.
No.
The motion carries 2-1.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on, we have our second item, which is the Fifth Amendment to the agreement number 7748-17FN with HDL companies. And that will be presented by Jeff Lambert. Yeah.
Hi, this is Kathleen Mallory, Planning and Sustainability Manager. I'll be presenting this afternoon the Fifth Amendment to the agreement with HTL Companies for cannabis management services. Just to provide some quick background, HDL has been providing sales tax, property tax, and business tax auditing for the city for quite a few years. In addition to assisting with property tax and economic analysis services for the city, they were retained in around 2018 to begin helping with our cannabis work. Through a formal contract in July, we secured HDL through a contract amendment, which was for cannabis application review and screening, along with preparation of competitive evaluation and ranking reports. And then, as we call it, SME or staff assistance through the subject matter expertise. The contract value was about $115,000 for that Fourth Amendment. Through the Fourth Amendment process, we looked at manufacturing and distribution of cannabis applicants. We also began working on putting together the cannabis application guidelines, the application materials, and they provided assistance to staff in understanding that process. Currently, the city has, through that Sixth Amendment process, we made an assumption that there will be 30 applications. As the presentation and report indicates, we are significantly over that number. The city currently has 61 applicants and applications, and that's inclusive of retail, and that includes manufacturing and distribution. Through the competitive review process, the city selected 5 manufacturers and 3 distributors, and we're currently working through the development design review permit process with those 5 and 3 distributors. And then our retail application window closed on May 22nd, and we're currently evaluating the retail applications right now. But our number is significantly higher than the 30 original applicant assumptions within their fourth contract amendment. So before you is a Fifth Amendment. It'll increase the number of applications that HDL will assist us in reviewing. It'll help us through the site plan review process, including looking at sites through site visits and post-inspection visits as we determine necessary. It'll also assist with background checks and our merit-based ranking and interviews for the retail process, which we're going through right now. And all of those costs will be recoverable through the application process. The Fifth Amendment total will bring the contract up by an additional $125,243 for a total contract amount of $791,593. That is inclusive of their work, HDL's work currently with the Finance Department. Clearly, that is not all related to the cannabis processing, but their cost that of the additional contract before you for this Fifth Amendment, and as well as the Fourth Amendment, is fully recoverable through the cannabis business permit process and fee. And we are anticipating some revenue, as indicated in the report, about $183,000, and that will cover HDL's expenses associated with this amendment. So with that, Community Development Department's recommendation is that the Housing and Economic Development Committee recommend to the City Council approval of that Fifth Amendment to increase the amount of the agreement to $791,593 and to approve the budget appropriation for the additional $125,243 for that Fifth Amendment. I would also note that I have a representative from HDL on the phone should there be some questions that need to be answered by HDL representative. And that concludes staff's presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. It looks like we have no public speakers on this item. So, Mayor?
I really don't have, I think it's pretty straightforward. I have no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I happen to agree with the mayor. So with that, need a motion, Mayor?
I motion to approve.
I'll second. Call for a vote.
Member Flynn.
Aye.
Chair Madrigal.
Aye.
The motion carries 2-0.
Thank you. Moving on, we have item E, items for future agendas. Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to say to you and committee member Basua that I don't know if it was here at Housing and Economic Development or the Finance and Governance Committee that I had requested several weeks ago that prior to the council recess for the month of August, that by the end of July, that the items for future agendas is brought to the council members and obviously to those individuals that have made requests for these items to be on the committee agendas. And I'll say that I think 2 out of the 5 committees were actually holding meetings, and then there are 3 committees that there's no items that are being scheduled. So I think what's going to happen is that those items for future agendas to the respective committee members are going to be distributed by the staff, and then we're going to find some mechanism where maybe the individual committee member will say, I no longer want this on the agenda, or no, this is a top priority, or whatever that might be. So although I don't have any specific items to recommend for future agendas, I will say that I'm hoping that we can kind of clean up the future agenda list early in the fall, and that will be work that will be given to us as individual committee members within the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mayor. Hopefully, that gets taken care of and we have a early fall. I have no items for future agendas. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.